Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We are your hosts, Adriana Amay and
Jackie Sanders. We are two art professionals sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
we talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you'll be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday.
So on today's episode, we're talking about some of our favorite things. Most of them are art related, but we're going to be looking at some books, some podcasts, some supplies, movies, and more. And on this episode, we're going to be sharing, some of these things that inspire us, some of the tools that we're loving, a few of the wish list items that we're excited about. And so whether you're looking for gift ideas for other creatives or for yourself, want to try a new brush or show, a new show to binge, etc. Hopefully we got you covered.
Yes, a very lighthearted episode today, but I'm super stoked about it, especially thinking about our favorite art-related books or podcasts. Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a podcast fan, but books and podcasts can be such a great way to get inspiration for your work, motivation in your business, or just practical advice from other artists and other business owners. So we have a few recommendations that have really been game changers for us. Of course, in addition to the podcast you're listening to right now, I think one of the biggest ones for me that I suggest the most to people, and I'm actually in the middle of re-listening to right now, is the audiobook Story Brand. So Donald Miller is the author of it. He has a book as well as an ongoing podcast, which is super helpful. And it's really focusing on driving that combination of branding and storytelling with the business that I have found is so helpful, not just from an art making standpoint. Okay, like what do I want my work to say? What do I want my work to represent? But especially from a marketing standpoint of how do I connect with collectors? What messaging do I need to share with them? Which I feel like is oftentimes that push and pull, especially as creatives who are making the objects. We know the stories behind our work or our personal connections to the work. But then how do you translate that in your marketing material? What do you need to tell collectors? What do you not need to tell collectors? So it's very helpful from thinking of more, it's a not artist specific, it's just for business owners, but it's very helpful with kind of like crafting that message. And then the one other book is definitely more of a workbook style that I've been working through recently. It's called Sketch Like an Architect. And so I believe it's from like an independent publisher on Amazon. And I really like it mainly just because it's a practical skills workbook. It reminds me of like those books that kids have when they're like learning to draw their letters. It's literally like, okay, here's this type of line making or pattern, now recreate it. And so it's very fundamental now in the beginning. I'm working through it of doing 1 point perspective and 2 point perspective. But I included it in this list because I think it's a good reminder for artists, no matter what your medium is, of how refreshing it can be to just like return back to basics. So whether you're a ceramicist or a painter, or do digital art, kind of encouraging you to look at some tutorials, some audiobooks, some regular books that help you just get back to the basic skills of, oh, I forgot about that quick trick that I learned in Procreate when I first started. I should use that all the time now. Little return to basics now that it's the calm holiday season.
Nice. On my end, I have one of the ones I've been enjoying. It's called Good Art Does Not Sell Itself by Shirley O'Neill and Laura O'Hare. Shirley Ann O'Neill, there we go. Lots of good and actionable career advice and easily digestible sections. If you're a fast reader, it's a small book, so you're going to get through it really fast. But something that I like is on the different sections, some of them, what's written is like one page, and then if you want to call it a like almost like sticky note memo equivalent distilled version will be like on the next page. So some of them, literally what I've done before is I'll just flip through it and pick a random one and then I'll just read it and it just kind of gives me like nice tips on it. I don't know. It's good because it's not as overwhelming as some of the other business books that we've covered where they go into like building your whole empire situation. This one you can kind of dip in and dip out as needed. Almost use it as a kind of like focus for the week or focus for the day, or if you need like a little bit of motivation. But anyways, I believe they're based in the UK, so their perspective is a little bit different from some of the US based books. But I liked it. It was very interesting. Another one I've been enjoying, it's The Story of Art Without Men by Katie Hessel. So this one has been an eye opener. Um, of course, we love all our male artists from history that we enjoy reading about, like hello, Vinny. I always talk about Vinny. I love Vinny. But this one, it helps you like rediscover some female artists that were working around the same time they were, but somehow they got excluded out of the history books. And it's not just Eurocentric. Katie does actually go into artists that were working even before the 20th century in different countries and different media. So I thought that was super interesting. Definitely worth the read. And then also by Katie Hessel, she has an excellent podcast called the Great Women Artists Podcast, which I absolutely adore. And her accent is super cool too. Worth checking out. But she interviews curators, historians, all types of art professionals, as well as living, working artists. And I really like her interviewing style and the range of art styles and art disciplines that she covers. So I think like that's a really, really good combo, worth checking out. Other art related things that we are excited about. Um, of course, we have to talk about supplies of some sort.
Of course, of
If
course.
Yeah, absolutely. So one that I highly recommend, not sponsored by the way, but highly recommend for you guys to check out if you haven't tried them yet. Zebra mural brushes. Let me tell you, the way they're durable, like the crispy, clean lines I can make with them, especially with the square brushes line. They've also been expanding their line recently to have more artist specific ones. So, if you maybe work on a smaller format than a mural, you don't have to buy the big brush in the hardware store. They now have kits with smaller ones that work great for canvas and panel. Um, it's the square ones for me. I mean, I like the triangular ones and the round ones they have, and the flats and the angulars, the usual, but the square ones, the way that they deliver the paint, especially if you're using something like more fluid paint, whether it's house paint or using like golden fluid or golden um high flow. Oh, yeah, those lines are so crispy. It's not even funny. So I really enjoy those. And if you're hearing, this around the holiday time, go to their website. They've been putting some of their stuff on sale during this time. So definitely worth checking out if you don't have them near you or you work smaller scale. Definitely worth checking out their website.
Yeah, their brushes are next level amazing. I've worked with them on a handful of different mural projects, and they're so good. But my suggestion, art supplies wise, isn't necessarily supplies you may think about, but it definitely is super helpful for my creative practice, and that I recommend to anyone. So the first being just simple dot paper with Sharpies, both regular and then the thin tip Sharpies. You can never get enough of those, again, from a holiday season. Even if you're listening to this after the holidays, they're often doing sales to get like big box of Sharpies. You can never have enough. And then Fabriano is the type of dot paper that I use. But my other recommendation, especially from a art studio setup, whether you're working at your kitchen table, whether you have an established room, whether you have a physical space that collectors and visitors can come to, I highly, highly suggest having some form of LED lights in your space, ideally the color changing ones. My preferred brand is Govee, so Govee. Mainly in that it really is helpful to be aware of the lighting in your space, that I find that is so impactful on my creative practice. So even though it's not a traditional art supplies, it's almost like the tool that I use to set the energy for my creative practice. And having what I've now newly established as like the night mode in my studio, night mode, quote unquote, where I can like turn on the lights, turn off the overhead lights, turn on all these different colors, and just like get really grounded in a more intimate environment and space has been a huge game changer for all of the work that I make. So paying a little more attention to your studio space can be super helpful. But up next, we're going to talk about some shows and other things that we're looking forward to this holiday season. But let's take a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by our Level Up Artist resources.
We understand that life as a modern artist can be both exciting and overwhelming. Plus, there's a lot of information out there, but what do visual artists actually need?
We've spent countless hours of trial and error, weeding through tons of information to find the gold so that you don't have to waste time going down those endless rabbit holes.
We created a library of PDF resources with bonus videos that cover everything from artist documents to exhibition prep, social media to technology, sales strategies, and artist mindset, several templates, and more.
Ready to get started? Head on over to levelupartist.com/shop to level up your creative career today. Welcome back, everyone. So during the holiday season, although it can be a lot of fun, it can be very busy between social events, family commitments, or making art in your creative practice. It can be very, very busy. So it can be helpful to have art-related shows or movies that you use as the perfect either inspiration or way to wind down during the holiday season. So we wanted to recommend a few of our favorite things to watch, whether now or in the next couple weeks if you're recovering from this busy chapter. So the two that I watch literally every year, honestly, typically multiple times a year, one is on Netflix and one is on Disney Plus. So the first one is called Dance Dreams Hot Chocolate Nutcracker. Very weird title, I know, but it is so, so good. So even though I am a visual artist, I am always really fascinated with dance. I love watching dance documentaries, dance shows. And so this one is actually focusing on Debbie Allen, who's a very well-known dancer and performer, very theatrical. And so it's a 90-minute movie, came out in 2020, where it highlights her essentially like recreating the Nutcracker with a modern spin to it. And so it incorporates all different cultures, all different forms of dance, styles of dance. And it's just so cool seeing everything from the auditions to the rehearsals and then parts of the final performance. So definitely recommend that. So again, it's called Dance Dreams Hot Chocolate Nutcracker on Netflix. And then the other one I truly watch multiple times a year. It's more of like a winter movie to me. It's actually a docu-series on Disney Plus, and it's called Into the Unknown: The Making of Frozen 2. So this is also a very family-friendly series. I honestly have my parents watching it. I have my friends watching it. It's just the best. So, of course, many people may know the original movie Frozen from Disney. This is essentially a docu-series starting from when they are originally like thinking of the idea of the movie, storyboarding it, creating the songs. It's the entire behind the scenes documentation of making Frozen 2, which like broke all the records in the box office. Spoiler alert. And so it's really cool again to see. Obviously, there's a visual component to it, right? There's the visual end product, but to see the incorporation of multiple art disciplines coming together and how they collaborate is truly so inspiring. From writing the music to all of the singers to the voice actors, the writing of the script itself, and how little pieces of dialogue are so important with setting the stage for the future of the movie, just the animation in general, and then the heartbreaking scene where someone's like, well, my scene just got cut out of the final film, and I spent the last 4 months, 50 hours a week animating this. And they're like, sorry,
Oof.
it's cut. Okay, on to the next. So there's a reason that many animators only last one film, because it's grueling, but it's so cool to see that behind the scenes of just how much detail goes into making a film look effortless and seamlessly kind of come together all in the end. So, Into the Unknown, Frozen 2 on Disney Plus. Highly recommend. It's so, so good. Plus, it's like winter. So it's even if it's past the holiday season when you're listening to this, it's a very good, just like winter have on in the background. It's so good.
Nice. I love that. I haven't seen that one, but you're reminding me of the Nightmare Before Christmas documentary where they also show the stop animation of how they created everything. And that was also like, wow, you changed the face how many times on this like clay type material to make all these different anyways, it's they're fascinating and also has like a Christmas theme. So another
Yeah.
good one to watch. Don't know where that one's streaming though, but worth looking into. I have two anime suggestions and a movie. So anime one that I love, I've recommended to other people, and I want to watch it again actually. It's called Blue Period. This one's on Netflix. So it's a high schooler that he's kind of like bored with school, but then suddenly ends up going into art class and then decides to change basically his whole life to be an artist and goes to like cram school equivalent because he wants to get into art school. And it's like all the drama, all the challenges that go with it. But I found it really interesting. It was very relatable, especially when he's trying to figure out how to kind of like translate the world around him through art. And like, how is he supposed to do that while also balancing that there are rules of, composition and values? And like, there's all these other things involved. He's like, how can I make this thing look good? And also, how can I like be obsessed about this but still be healthy because he also goes into like unhealthy obsessions and kind of like starts suffering even physically. Anyway, so it's like interesting to see that kind of like how they portray it. And even though it's anime, I feel like it's the kind that after a while you forget it's animated and it's like same as a live action movie because it seems so realistic in so many aspects. So that was really cool. Another one that I enjoyed, also art related. This one's on Disney Plus, but I think other services stream it too. It's called Arte. Yes, as an art with an E at the end. I thought it was really cute. This one's on Disney Plus, and it's basically imagine around the times of Leonardo da Vinci. I think they made it a little bit after Leonardo's time, but just imagine, old Italy. And this girl in a time where women weren't really allowed to do art, this girl's like literally willing to quit being, quitting her aristocrat family that she's from in order to become an artist, even though in order to learn, because nobody will like take her as an apprentice, she ends up with like this really cool artist. We won't go into details, of course, no spoilers, but like he doesn't really want to teach her anyway. So she's like, I don't care if I have to like wash the floors, just show me stuff. Anyways, it's really interesting what she's willing to sacrifice and go through to learn to be an artist. So I thought that was really interesting, pretty wholesome as well, very cute. But like also goes into once again, like what are you willing to do for art? And I feel like with both of them, it also helps with the whole like art isn't just making it for making it. They also kind of touch upon very little, but they kind of touch upon of like you still need to make a living, you still need money to buy supplies. Like, so what are you willing to take commissions? Like, what are you willing to do to make the stream be real? So anyway, so that was very interesting. And then I was just talking about this one with another creative in our area recently. We were talking about Eternity at the Gate. Willem Dafoe as Vincent Van Gogh to me is kind of an interesting choice because I think of him as like, I don't know, he's done so many villain roles that in my brain he's just like, that actor that's always a villain. So having him as Vincent, Vinny as I call him, who like I love so much, is kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. And the movie does have a few slow moments that I was just like, I need to pause and go get a coffee or something. Like it's like, wow, that's really slow. But at the same time, I love that because Vincent left, his letters to Theo, and there's so much about Vincent that he documented himself. Then for the movie, they definitely had a lot of real life like information that they could go off of to like help rebuild the type of world he would have lived in. But to see him navigate things like him being bullied by kids and adults, and kind of like him having his manic episodes, but then also like when he's trying to make art and he transports himself literally to another world, like it's just, anyways, I thought it was really amazing. So even though it has some slow moments, I think it's worth working through it. And that one I believe is on Amazon Prime. So yes. But speaking of watching stuff, another thing, a few other things that, we also want to share with you, that we're excited about watching wise. I love Domestica, also not sponsored, but I love Domestica because you don't have to do a subscription. You can choose to just buy the class that you want. And I feel like the prices are very affordable. And unlike subscription services, even if you don't have a subscription, you keep it as long as they have it on, which is quote unquote lifetime, you never know, but for a long, long time. And or you can do a subscription or you can do both. So I like them. They have a little bit of everything from ceramic. I've taken ceramic classes, I've taken spray paint classes, I've taken muraling classes, I've taken digital illustration classes. Like they have all kinds of stuff. If you're familiar with Skillshare, they're somewhat similar to a certain extent, but this one, the instructors are from all over the world. So I've taken ceramic classes from a French teacher, and yes, I had to have like subtitles. Some of them are dubbed though, so they'll have someone else do the live translation. But I thought, oh, and then I some of the ones that I watched that were about graffiti or muraling. One of them, the teachers is from Colombia, and I do speak Spanish, so I heard the class in Spanish. So that was cool. And then the other one, I want to say they were from Mexico, so same thing. It was in Spanish, but some of the other languages, I was like, yeah, I need subtitles for that, or dubbing. So, anyways, worth checking out. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about that's on its way as we're recording this, um, not very expensive either, but I'm like, I don't know, it's like a kid on Christmas, literally, situation is getting I sound like such a dork saying this out loud, but here it is. Um, a Craftsman versus Stack double drawer box.
Yeah. Seeing this on
It
the
is
list, I was like, I'm excited even just reading about that, let alone like actually getting it.
so different brands have different things out there. You guys can see them like hardware stores carry the stuff a lot of times. But for all of you artists that like to have their stuff organized and needed portable, especially if you needed portable. So Craftsman, DeWalt, like all these big brands, they have these think of like plastic toolboxes that latch onto each other. And a lot of times the bottom one either is like a cart that has wheels or the box itself has wheels and then you attach more on top. So you can literally customize this based on your art practice. So the one I chose to invest in, Craftsman has a Versa stack and a trade stack, and the Versa stack slightly smaller, so it's very easy to put in and out of the car. And I have some of their boxes of theirs, and I have one that has a big drawer that I can put stuff in for muraling. But this one has two drawers, and it's gonna go perfect underneath my 20 compartment one, which I'll have to do a video about sometime. But the 20 compartment one is like where I have my tape and my chalk and my markers and basically like all the smaller stuff for muraling. But right now I use the big drawer one and all the brushes are there. And this is like customizable compartments in each drawer. So now I can be like, all my small brushes go here. All my bigger brushes go here. All my fancy brushes nobody can touch go here. Like I don't know, adding the possibilities of how else I can like extra organize this. Even though I'm not like muraling exactly right now as we're recording this, I'm like, I can't wait to just like get this out of my car and like just cart over all my cool stuff and just like, oh, I'm gonna pick that. I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of nerdy, but yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to a toolbox.
No,
Would
I
say
love
that.
it. I
Never.
love it, especially because as you mentioned, like it'll be hyper functional when on a mural site. But
Hmm.
even to your point, even when you're not actively painting a mural, it will still
Organized.
everything will be together. It'll like everything will be organized and it'll like look nice, even just like leaning up against the corner of your studio or like standing there as a organization system. So it's
Yeah.
multi and on the go, which we love.
Yeah, and not super expensive either. So yeah,
Ah,
yeah. And
better.
it's the kind of system where you can buy a few at a time or one at a time. So you don't have to buy this giant metal toolbox, everything in its situation. No, they're plastic and you can just buy whichever one you want and you choose which one goes on top of which. Like,
Oh,
anyways, sorry. Okay, not
I love
sorry.
it. That's
It's
definitely
very
on
cool.
my wish list. I feel like the next big, either like commission or whatever big project, I'll have to set a milestone for myself. Definitely be investing in something similar because even just
Hmm.
hearing about that, I'm like, oh, that sounds so satisfying.
Yeah, and last tip on that, if you do the Versa stack, it actually is compatible with DeWalt T-Stack. So you have two brands to choose
Oh,
from. And because they started out a few years ago before all these new brands came in, there's actually plenty of them already in the market that you don't have to pay premium price for, and they work with each other. So versus
that's good
other
to
brands, it's like theirs or it doesn't work with anybody else. These guys
know.
like are actually compatible with each other. So
Ooh,
Versa
maybe do
Stack
some,
and T-Stack are where it's at.
yeah, maybe do some good Facebook Marketplace searching and see if we can find.
Hmm.
We love that.
Mm.
Well, I guess the last suggestion for me of something I'm excited to get my hands on, which as I'm planning ahead for the new year, as we're wrapping things up, honestly, one of my goals from a material standpoint is to be as resourceful as I can and use as much in my studio as I can, which we'll go into a bit more with our 2025 planning. So in terms of like painting and panels, use up all that material. But I guess one thing that I'm really excited to get my hands on, again, is not necessarily an art material, but like art business adjacent, would be some new GoPro attachments. So in the new year, really focusing on documenting my process, the behind the scenes of my studio, and then also taking it to mural sites or to exhibition spaces. So I invested in a GoPro a while ago, but I think really having specific attachments for my studio space for setting up video on the go will be really the key for getting those time lapse or behind the scenes shots while being minimally invasive to the process because nothing kills the creative energy more than like trying to makeshift a way to set up my phone or the GoPro in the right angle. And then you end up spending 20 minutes and you get frustrated. So, like, okay, invest in some of the more niche clips and attachments and bands to get the right angle to just focus on the creative process. So that's definitely what I'm excited to get is the GoPro attachments and of course, as always, probably more Govee LED lights because when you have all the lights off in the studio, you want to just be like as vibey as possible. And colorful lighting always does that. So very excited
I
about
love
those.
that.
But with that, we hope this episode gave you some new ideas for you to add to your gifting list or to try in your own art practice from books and podcasts when you're traveling to new supplies and maybe some wish list items for the holiday season or for the new year. There's so much inspiration out there, and we want to hear from what some of your favorite wish list items are. So definitely let us know because we love seeing what everyone is getting into.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we gave you some ideas. So if you got some gift cards during the holidays, now you have some ideas on what to spend them. Besides more paint, we're always going to buy more paint, or depending what your discipline is. But you know, some new things out there. But yeah, let us know what you're currently obsessed with. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode.
As always, our blog will be linked in today's show notes where you will find links to all of our other podcast episodes.
If you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at Mayart across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we are at Level Up Artists on Instagram.
You can also visit levelupartist.com to get immediate access to templates, resources, and course modules to level up your creative career today.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.